Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee, the podcast on the business of video production.
Creatives Grab Coffee is hosted by Dario and Kyrill Lazarov from Labs Productions. Our goal is to share knowledge and experiences from video production professionals around the world. Whether you're a freelancer looking to start your own business or a seasoned business owner aiming to scale your company, this is the show for you.
Join us as we develop a community of like-minded creatives looking to learn and help each other grow. Welcome to the business of video production. Welcome to Creatives Grab Coffee.
Before we get started with the show, let's go over today's sponsors.
Do you have a shoot in Toronto? Do you need crew or a strong production partner to help you with your project? Labs Productions is one of the top production companies in Toronto and your go-to video partner.
With our strong creative skills and extensive network, we can help you achieve your goal. Labs Productions is able to offer you production services, white label services, or finder fees for project handoffs.
Reach out to us on our website at labsproductions.com to learn more.
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and grid fan packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
And now, let's begin the show. Hold on 1 second.
Nice looking website. Man, I really got to fix ours.
Oh, God, I have nightmares about it. It's 5 years old. It's awful.
It looks
That's
better
awful,
than ours.
If that is awful, then I don't know what is amazing for you then.
Well, I guess what I mean is that in terms of clients will have seen it. They'll be they'll be noticing that it hasn't changed for a long time. Well, at least I am anyway.
Your clients go on your website constantly to check to see if you change it. That's a thing.
I'd like to think they do.
That's what we all think.
They don't do that
Every morning.
Every morning they wake up first thing. Still no blog post. It's been 2 weeks.
Like, we need to know what's happening with Bouche Media every second of every day.
They haven't put the killer showreel on that Nick keeps talking about.
Guaranteed, every client has looked at the website once, like all of our websites, only once for like 10 seconds, and then that's been it. Never again.
I think most clients have looked at our websites for half a second, scrolled right down to the contact form, and that was the first and last time.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was it. It was like, let's just talk to someone.
Who might have not gone all the way down to the bottom.
You know what it is? Websites are more so for other video production companies nowadays.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what are they doing? What are they doing? Okay, cool.
And I think
it's like
showreels as well. I don't think anyone really ever makes showreels for the clients because the clients don't really have a clue what they're looking at. I think they're like, oh, it's some pictures. They're in video. That's fine.
Especially if you're dealing with corporate clients, they as long as it's good quality and that's all they need to see, then that's fine. They'll reach out.
Than what they can do, or what they think they can do. I think that's it.
If it's better than an iPhone, then you're good in this industry.
There's some times when I'm doing my sales intro calls and everything, and I know I have to introduce my company and what we do and everything, and then most of the time I just go like, they should have looked at this because it's all on the website. I feel like I'm just repeating the same stuff. So sometimes I just like speed run to the end and say like, it's all on the website. I mean, you definitely did your due diligence, right?
Yeah. Or you ask why they've come to you and you think it's because, oh, we love that, the way you did the focus pull on that, whatever. And actually someone just said, try these guys.
Try these guys, yeah.
Hey, try these guys is actually a lot more helpful to understand than you were number 3 on Google. You were on the list. You were on a list that we reached out to, one of like 15, 20, 30 quotes,
Yeah.
Have you ever had it where like you get the contact form entry and it's got like another company's name on it?
Yeah.
And you're like, I know they just copy pasted on like the
Yeah.
first three like pages.
You want to be singled out for your brilliance, and it doesn't always happen like that.
You know, one day you should just pretend to be that company as like throughout the whole sales process, just to see if they notice, you know, that the email handle is a little different. It's like, oh, wait, who are you again?
Yeah, or just present to them as you are that company or something. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think we've been sent decks from other companies because they've finished with one company and they're trying another, and they send you like a PDF, and in the corner it's like a logo of another company or something, and that's kind of interesting.
I've had that. I've had that as well. Like with mostly with people that I know, like personally, like within my network, where they've been like, hey, we need a video project. This is like a client that or the company that we've worked with, or like here was a previous brief that we worked with, and it's like, oh, so that's who you were working with beforehand. Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think it's kind of interesting, but then you think this is just the cycle, and then in a few years, you know, you'll be passing on our deck to someone else or something. They'll see, oh, you're working with those guys.
Yeah. But
Well-
Nick, let's start with who you are, your company, and so let's get the episode started.
and not
you know?
what's in between my teeth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got some salad there, by the way.
Oh, yeah, really.
I'm messing.
It's the start for it. So my name is Nick, and I run a video production company called Boosh, and we are based in West London. And we've been running for about 12 years. So we started in 2012 officially, and we are, I guess, what you call a corporate video production, and we sort of work across live action and animation and motion graphics. And you know, increasingly we find ourselves doing a lot of productions that combine the two, which is good for us because I like working with both. And we've got a kind of our traditional kind of main clients are in a kind of mix of finance, sort of fintech, and commercial real estate. Because a lot of the work I think came through my contacts initially because I used to work at Bloomberg, so a lot of it helps get you in with those kind of companies because they know the reference of where you work. And now we sort of work with some big companies like sort of HSBC, big banks, but through to smaller agencies and the sort of PR world that deal with all the bigger companies. So it's quite a nice mix of sort of direct to corporate, but also working with marketing and creative guys in agencies.
3 good industries, especially on the commercial side.
Yeah. Oh, they seem to. I think they want kind of creative support, and they've always seemed to have some sort of projects on the go, which is great.
There's always a need for different kinds of content. That's why those are good types of industries to be in, is to find that have clients that have like a wide range, not only external, but even sometimes internal, because it always seems like there's something that needs to be done,
And
Yeah,
there's
you
always
mean
more
whether it's like
internal.
like a big interview, or it's just sort of some small sort of graphics pieces or something.
12 years, eh? That's a long time. We've been doing this for 10 years. Just flies by.
But isn't it? It's weird because it doesn't. It's a bit like, I guess, how old you feel. Like you feel, I sort of know it's like more than 5 years, but it doesn't feel like 12. Like if it was sort of 6 or 7, that probably feels about right. I think.
Yeah, same here.
But yeah, 10 years, and that's quite a long time, weirdly, in sort of in digital media, as it would, in terms of how quickly things move on, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. What were you doing at Bloomberg before?
So it was called multimedia, but it was basically working on TV interviews and putting them on their website. So our team, I mean, extremely uncreative, but we were basically just chopping up the interviews, and you might do 7 or 8 a day, and you would write about them. So you would just, isolate them from the feed like this. You'd have like a 20-minute interview, and then you would just watch it, write about it, and put it on the website.
So what then made you leave that job to then start your own
What made
company?
me leave was them making me leave. Me not having a job there anymore. So I joined.
most conservative way to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. They said I didn't have a job. So I joined in 2008 during the Lehman Brothers. I didn't really know much about what it all meant at the time, but joined, when all that was kicking off.
Oh, okay.
And I was only there for 6 months. I was barely finished my probation, I don't think. So I joined in the autumn and then was out by sort of spring, January, February sort of time.
Wait, in the same year of 2008?
No, so 2009, so I joined in autumn 2008.
Oh,
and then
okay.
left in early 2009. Because at the time they had a sort of load of European TV channels in their office in London. We were the sort of British bit, the English bit, and then there was Spanish, French and stuff. And as part of all the cuts, they just got rid of all their foreign language. I think this is right, all their foreign language TV channels, and then just went down to English. So quite a few people went in that sort of thing. But I mean, they said it wasn't to do with the credit crisis or anything, but I don't know. So that was it really. And it was at a time when online video was sort of a new thing, or fairly new. And because I'd done a bit, sort of people started saying, "Oh, could you do this for me?" And sort of little bits here and there kind of grew and grew. And then my boss from Bloomberg moved to HSBC, so that was great because that was one of the things that made we had to sort of formalize our offering and sort of become proper, as it were.
So you had a 3-year gap though between when you
Well, I was doing stuff. Yeah, I was sort of, I guess it would freelancing.
Freelancing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, making and sort of working with freelancers I knew and sort of crew and editors and stuff, and doing. I mean, to look back on it, you think 3 years, that's quite a long time to be doing that. And I think, what really was I doing for 3 years? But I think it was starting to work for bigger companies. But I think it was just that 2012 when Boosh was sort of created was just the sort of formalization of creating a limited company, giving it a name, moving from your own kind of personal website to a company website and stuff like that.
So what caused it to go to that next step for you?
Well, it was certain clients were saying you need to be a limited company to be on our be a supplier.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that different from, because I don't know what a limited company is there, because here we have like just sole proprietorship or partnership and then corporations. So what's the is that the same thing?
Yeah, I suppose the nearest in America is probably, well, I know you're Canadian, but America would be sort of LLC, I suppose. It's sort of...
Oh, okay.
So the company is the sort of entity, not you. So I suppose the company is insured,
Right.
and if I do something, or the company does something bad, the company is the liability, not me.
Yeah, so it's corporation. Here
Yeah, but
in America, there are production companies that have LLC in the name or something like that, but that's not common here in Canada. Here it's just
Really?
corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's the designation. Like LLC is like the designation for it. They don't always include it in the names of a lot
we
of
wouldn't
the
do it
businesses.
either. But it's just, when you fill out forms and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think you can even choose whether you're limited, written out in full, or LTD. That's part of your name on the government sort of site.
Interesting.
But yeah, before that, you're a sole trader, which is your sort of official category, I think.
Yeah, I like that, sole trader instead of sole proprietor. It's very it's very old school kind of style. I feel like you're going to the market to trade with other people and
yeah, to set up your stall, peddle your wares or something.
Yeah, especially with
memory cards to trade.
Yeah, memory cards for lenses.
I got videos to trade.
Yeah, my services for your goods. Yeah, so that's how it started really, and and sort of been going since. And it's funny how you say look back at 12 years and what's the things that have kicked. And your company as well must have spanned a nice selection of crises as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. The big one is obviously the COVID one.
Yeah.
But we obviously had like other issues, like we had cash inflow problems and everything. Because for a long time, it just felt like Kyrill and I were just collaborating together as freelancers
under a name.
Yeah, and then we were we hit a plateau actually right before the pandemic because we just weren't growing. I think it was like a period of 2-3 years we just weren't making any changes. And then pandemic happens.
Was that bad?
I don't know. I don't know how it was in the UK, but here they closed everything.
Yeah,
I think our province in particular was like one of the last places on earth to like finally open up. So
yeah, and it took 6 months.
I see, so sort of way beyond when most of the world, you were a bit like New Zealand, I think, kept it going.
I swear to God, we were the last ones, like
sort of rioting in the streets. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think what happened for us. I mean, some of the people I know in the industry were really busy all the way through COVID. I think once the sort of initial things going, especially some of the animators and the sort of people who had clients who just had to make stuff. I think especially brands and things who had to keep going. I mean, they were flat out, but ours sort of fell off a cliff really, our work. I think a lot of our, especially with banking clients, all moved from the usual kind of routine of doing stuff for their customers to all into sort of crisis management, and everyone was sort of pulled into working on customer support lines and all sorts of stuff. So all their kind of regular activities sort of froze, and I think a lot of our clients just didn't really know what they were doing, and obviously they didn't know how long everything was going to go on for. So a lot of our work, really dried up. So it was quite a sort of frightening frightening period.
Do you have a big team?
No, I mean, at the time we were, even now, you know, we're 3, but at the time we were sort of 4 or 5. So, you know, pretty small, but it does, you know, and like these things, it's not so bad if you know when it's going to end. But it's knowing how long you've got to keep going on your sort of burn rate of like, okay, there's no work. How long can we keep going? And we had to shrink the team because there just wasn't the work. And the government did I don't know how it worked in Canada, but they did do loans and stuff.
They did that here too, but actually a friend of ours was saying that they applied for it and it took forever to...
Really?
Yeah, it didn't really... Like, I feel like it caused more problems later on for a lot of companies, especially in our industry, than it really did to kind of help or so. Like, a lot of the people in the creative industry here either quickly downsized or downsized and then later kind of rehired to kind of bring in the people once the work kind of came back. But the ones that really were able to kind of weather the storm easily were people who were just, you know, as nimble and as small as you or as us, right? Like for 6 months after that, we had no work. And the only reason we were able to kind of get through it and then actually basically revamp the entire business was because it was just the 2 of us, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If we had like a studio or if we had people on staff, you know, beforehand, it would have just...
We were this close to actually leasing out an office before the pandemic. Yeah, we were like this close. We would have been so screwed, Kyrill. Oh my god.
Yeah, so many what ifs, aren't there? And yeah, I mean, we had a thing. So there were loans, and actually, there's a whole thing about the government here because they made these loans really quick and easy to get. But as a result of that, there was a lot of fraud and people setting up companies.
Tons of it here too.
People then going bust and taking the money. But they also did furlough, which is this sort of, again, like an old word no one had ever heard of. So they paid people salaries, which was great. But they don't pay the direct. If you're a director of a company, they're not paying your salary. If you take, I don't know how it works in Canada, but there's a way of paying yourself so your income is based on the performance of the company. You take a minimum salary and you take profit out, and that's taxed differently. Whereas,
interesting.
Yeah, whereas employees will take a salary in the sort of traditional sense.
The government paid that.
So the government would pay people's the sort of employees' salaries.
God, no wonder inflation went.
Yeah, exactly. And now we wonder why the government is trillions of pounds in debt.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, they didn't do anything like that here.
No, here it was like for people who had no jobs, there was like a thing that was called CERB, where everyone would get like a certain. I mean, there was 2 different ways of getting it, but the main one was you just get like a flat fee of like $2,000 a month.
Was it every 2 weeks?
It was a month. It was $2,000 a month, just so that people can kind of keep the lights on for a certain while. I think they did that for about a year at most, and then they got rid of it.
That's funny, eh? They make you lose your job, and then they only give you $2,000 a month in a city that you can't.
I don't know
live
is that what sort of salary is that? I don't know. Is that a sort of is that I don't know what how 2,000 Canadian dollars is that like an American dollar or is it?
That's like 1,200 pounds. That's like 1,200 pounds.
Okay, yeah. So it's absolutely like it doesn't really cover anything, but you can buy some food and pay some bills, kind of thing. That's it.
You could buy a McDonald's here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny all these different countries how they did it, and I think even in America, you would just get given grants. I think some companies just got like given money.
Yeah, that was it. I don't think they even gave any ordinary citizen anything. I
think they did after a certain point.
Yeah, it was $1,100. Like $1,100.
Yeah. Which we just spend it on missiles and stuff instead. Well, that's the American approach, isn't it? It's the stuff. It's like no healthcare, but we've got amazing.
Each missile costs $1 million. Best I can give each citizen is $1,000 for forever, and that's it.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it was really hard, wasn't it? And it's amazing sort of looking back on it, and you sort of think, well, at least we got through it because a lot of people didn't even do that. So
we came out of that stronger than ever before. But that was also thanks to this podcast because we learned so much and we just applied the knowledge. Yeah. But we would have, I think, if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would have never started this podcast. And if we never started this podcast, I think we would have still been at a plateau.
Really,
Yeah. We could have even like at one point gone our separate ways afterwards, even seeing a plateau because it's not easy to run a business, and even if you don't know how you're running the business, because
we weren't running a business, Kyrill.
That's what I mean. It wasn't really a business.
Water.
We thought it was, and then talking to other actual business owners, we realize, oh, that's what it means to run a business. Then now we have to do things a little differently.
Yeah.
So,
but as you're right, and the skills you learn in that, it's funny how, I mean, the podcasts were a thing that we were making for companies, or in fact, actually just editing their content they sent over. But it's funny how that's become embedded in sort of culture now, isn't it? And it really kicked off, I think, during that. And you must have learned lots of skills and being stuff that clients wanted to do, and you knew how to run them for them. I don't know if that's how it worked, but all of a sudden you were sort of experts.
Yeah, it did help us a lot. Like we have two or three clients right now that we're doing podcasts for, and
like
we use this as like the pitch basically.
Yeah, and it's made, and like some of the, I guess all the tech got really good because I'd never heard of Zoom before. I know you're using Riverside, but our accountants used to use Zoom and do all these video calls and stuff. And it was all seen as a bit weird and like, why are you bothering, you know? And now it's just, you know, it's normal.
They understood the importance. I think the best thing that came out of the pandemic was that everyone understood the importance of video.
Yeah.
Before it was always like an afterthought after photography.
Yeah.
And it became just as important because
well,
of it.
People always talked about the stats of it, right? You know, it's like, oh, you get more engagement like this and like that, which was true and they knew it, but I don't think it really registered as much until it started to affect them personally. Because I think a lot of the times when you hear like a lot of stats or anything like that in the marketing world or any kind of product world, you know, of how to get engagement, you understand the importance of certain mediums like video and how it's helpful, but you can't relate to it. You can't relate to it as much, right?
Yeah.
Until you experience it fully for yourself personally. It's like, oh, this is how video has helped me in my day to day. This is why it's so important, and this is why we have to continue investing in the medium. And which is why there were a lot of companies that were extremely busy during the pandemic because they had clients that understood that and went forward with it. But unfortunately, in Canada, and we've covered this in some previous episodes before, the marketing budgets here are not as high as in other countries, especially in the US, because these are like Canadian offices, right?
We're also 10 times smaller. So
10 times smaller market. So the marketing budgets for Canada just kind of disappeared right away, which is why a lot of people here struggled. But many companies that we talked to in the US or maybe even in the UK, as you mentioned, were busy right throughout the pandemic and
they also didn't really close down there either. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that is true.
They stayed open. They stayed open a long time. How's the market in the UK? Let's kind of bring it to present day. Like, what's the market like over there?
Well, I mean, so do you mean kind of right now, or like over the last sort of 6 months or something?
Like right now,
let's
6 months.
Yeah, now in 6 months, because this. I mean, we're all both of our economies are going through kind of a downtrodden period. So I'm curious to see what it's like there.
And I never know when. I'm trying to sort of think whether I give you an answer to like how we're finding it, or what like the headlines of all the papers are saying. I mean, I think definitely for the last 2 years it's been very kind of up and down, a real mixed bag. You know, you have a few months of it being really busy, and then there might always be projects in the background, but things will suddenly stop, and you might have a few weeks where the sort of things there's no new inquiries coming in, and you're just working on existing stuff. And I think after COVID we had a year of sort of where we were flat out doing stuff. But I think ever since then, it's been a real mix of all sorts of things. And I think the sort of consistent activities of certain clients sort of seem to stop. And I think they're all now doing, the world is, their environment is much more of a mixed bag of things. They'll do, where in the past they might have done everything with a video company at various levels. They're doing their own stuff on iPhones. And then they're doing a bit with this company and a bit with that company and all sorts. So the scene is much more sort of varied, I think, for our clients.
That got normalized, actually, where they film stuff and do stuff themselves during the pandemic because they had to do that, right?
Yeah.
And even nowadays, every now and then, we would get a question from a lead saying, "Hey, we shot something that we did in the office on an iPhone. Can you edit something out of?
Can you make it good?
Make it look good?" And it's like, it's not that the iPhones suck; is that they're not experienced people, right?
Well,
like,
they haven't got 2 days. They had day to light it or anything. So yeah.
But that's changing too now because exactly like that.
Just as like
the glasses. They always have the glasses like.
Yeah. And do you find that no matter how good your document is, you send them like a thing? Don't do this, do this, do this, and this, and then you get someone records themselves next to a fountain, with the sun behind them, and you're like, why did I bother?
Oh, I was
That's
just gonna
changing
say-
too, like them having like their own social media people on board. That's also
Yeah.
changing because now they're tightening their own internal budgets, and they're finding that okay, I don't have enough work to give to this person,
Yeah.
so they're getting
Yeah,
like
so there's all the
it's
sort of
almost
stuff-
going back to
all the stuff at the bottom, let's call it sort of stuff at the bottom, it's sort of smaller stuff they need more often of, more, you need it more, more frequently. All that stuff they're doing themselves. So, and occasionally they might give it out, but often you're right, they've got people who can handle it up to a certain point. Now they'll use Canva or something like that. And so in a way it's great, as you said, video is much more common and important than it used to be. But the only, the downside to that is that it's so much easier for them to handle themselves, is that, it's a much more usable commodity.
But I've been hearing that it's changing from that now too.
Really?
Because now there's not even, because again, they're looking at their own budgets and they're cost cutting.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to pay someone like the average salary here is like 50K, right? In Toronto. To just do like social media videos a couple a month doesn't make sense. It's almost cheaper to outsource it again. Or
Really?
what I heard
They
do
tack
is
it onto
just,
other people's
they tack it
roles.
onto
So-
So there's
Yeah.
like a graphic I've seen that because my girl's a graphic designer, so I was seeing like she's trying to apply to some other jobs, so she was seeing the requirements, and it's like they want them to be like 5 different roles
for
into
like
one. It's like
$40,000.
graphic designer,
Yeah,
graphic designer, animator, videographer, editor. I was like, that's 4 different roles that they're asking for in
Yeah,
one
you
job.
could have
It
pushed
just
do
makes
2
no
of
sense.
them if you're lucky. Yeah.
But here's
Yeah.
the thing. Here's the thing that is funny. They can ask for that being the skill set, but the one benefit for the worker is that there's only so much work they can do at once. So they might do 1 month where they would do a video, another month where they would do, like, say, graphic design. I know this because also my wife was working in this one role many years back where it was a similar thing. She was there for one particular job, but because no one else was doing any kind of video stuff, she would maybe one day have to go and just set up a camera to record someone speaking in front of other people. It's like, okay, she's doing that, but she's not doing the other job. So it's, they are losing
She's
at
there
the
all
end of
day
the
doing
day.
that thing.
Yeah. So if she's going to be there working on that, like, sure, you could ask all these people to have all these skills and be able to do it. But there's also the element that these people hiring don't realize is that how much time do you think is going to be devoted to each one of those roles? Is that really going to be helping the organization? At the same time, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't
I've
care.
seen
They have to
people-
hit the numbers.
Yeah, I've seen all those posts on LinkedIn. I don't know what your sort of network's like on LinkedIn, but all the sort of people who are complaining about, ranting about people advertising for four role jobs and all. It's crazy. And I think
You see that a lot on Instagram. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Making fun
They're
of, like,
this is
office
4
culture
jobs, you're gonna pay me
videos
4 salaries. But yeah, it's a sort of blessing and a curse, isn't it? There's way more work, there's way more content around, but equally there's lots of different levels at which you can work, and who does the work and what level it needs to be at and all that sort of stuff.
What do you think could potentially help kind of change that down the road, for either a company itself or in the industry itself?
Oh, you mean how's that going to change next? Kind of.
Yeah, like what do you think would be like, where do we go from there? Or like,
Well,
what is there something like video production companies can do to kind of help, make a shift in that? I don't know, but
Oh,
what
do
are
you
your
mean?
thoughts?
Do you mean like get more of the work? I mean, I certainly think like all the AI everyone talks about, or whatever, that's like the end of the world. But all the platforms are going to use more and more AI in them, aren't they? Like for us, we see it in Premiere every sort of few weeks. There's a new feature or whatever that helps us. And I think all the tools like Canva that sort of, let's say, sort of an average marketing person understands quite well, will just get really, will become better at processing video and doing all sorts of stuff with it. So I sort of think it's going to become easier for non-skilled people to make better video. I guess like it always is, the whole time, like all the apps, the sort of Instagram makes it easier, by the day, TikTok and all these apps will make it easier. And I guess it'll just mean that there'll be more potential, but equally our skills and our potential will just increase too, because we'll know more about all the stuff it can do. So,
and we can also use AI to a better effect.
yeah, exactly. And we'll understand the tools that we've got access to won't be the same AI tools that they've got access to, because they're not interested in paying whatever it is or whatever. And so, I think
cost
it's
cutting.
yeah, and our job is just to stay on top of it all and know the stuff that haven't got the time to deal with. So I don't think it's a bit like Zoom and iPhones weren't the end of video production companies. I don't think AI is going to be the end of us. We'll just use it, won't we? And there'll have to be new ways of doing it. Like, we'll just become better prompt writers or whatever, Premiere or something like that.
Well, there's going to be the AI fatigue, kind of similar to when people had the Zoom fatigue. They got sick and tired of seeing people doing constantly Zoom content,
Yeah.
see, because it's the same, it's
right.
the same content all the time. Sure, different topic, different this, different that, but it's still someone on a square talking at home, usually bad lighting, bad setup, because it was very rare during the pandemic to be talking with people where they had good setup. So we had to like create these kind of like guidelines for people that we would be recording virtually, like we'll like sit in front of a big window, make sure you have this and that. And for like one of our clients right now where we're doing like this virtual podcast, as Dario mentioned, we had to create this kind of like mini package that was like in a small Pelican case that we would send out to each interviewee with the simplest gear as possible. I remember when we were talking with them, we said, okay, what do you think would be doable for people? They're like, make it it plugs in and that's all they need to do. Because obviously we would love to have one big light like we have right over here. We would love to have a mic like this, but to send it to people so that they could set it up themselves, it's not always easy. And even with simple plug and play, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes
there's still
they can't get it to work. There's always technical issues
the most random issues too, like.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter how simple.
Makes you think about your instructions, because you're like, you write out there and you think, oh, they won't know what that is, and then you have to sort of think of it's a real like user experience lesson for you, thinking, what does that mean?
But you just have to say like, take mic, plug into computer. I don't know how much simpler it can be sometimes.
But sometimes it's like stuff like they just need to restart the computer to fix the issue. It's like one of those weird things, you know? Like, and a lot of times they use like work laptops that are not Macs.
Oh, that's
so you're using PCs, which are like.
And if you don't know, and if you're in a complete like Mac world, I don't know about you, but you sort of completely don't even understand what a PC is anymore. I wouldn't even know how to begin sorting out. So then you'd probably have to buy one or rent one and then work out how to test it on that.
Well, the thing with a lot of these, especially like corporate clients, when they have these work computers, there's a lot of red tape and a lot of security clearances that need to be administered. And sometimes those security softwares that are on those computers don't detect the camera, they don't detect the microphone, because it is flagged as a foreign entity that can't go into the
and then it can't save the footage, or you can't transfer it.
Exactly.
So you guys were talking about these people using, or clients using AI and everything, but I just remembered something about how a lot of our like financial corporate clients, like they're not even allowed to use like ChatGPT for their day-to-day stuff. So it's probably going to be the same stuff for their video content as well, right? They can't use, they're not legally not allowed to use it.
No, but I mean, it tends to be actually only the one or two marketing people, say in a bank, would be able to use some sites. Like, obviously most people can't even get near YouTube, but the marketing people can. And I guess they're just going to have special dispensation. But I mean, I guess that's the whole challenge of things like AI, isn't it? It's like, how do you adapt it? You need it to be useful, but at the same time safe. And I don't know how banks are going to deal with all that. But
imagine this scenario.
Their own stuff.
Imagine this scenario though, like for example, an overworked marketing department, they have like a low level, not intern necessarily, but kind of like that. And they say, we need you to create a video with our CEO and figure out what you can do with it. So what do you think they're going to do? Maybe they'll take some clips of the CEO, put them through those AI softwares, and then get him to say exactly what they need. But now there's that security risk where that CEO is in the AI ecosystem and can be made to say whatever he wants, whenever he wants. If
there's any picture online, he's already in the AI ecosystem.
But it's like the sound, the voice, and everything like that can be.
It's on YouTube. It's already. YouTube's been training their models.
Well, it's like it's image to video.
It's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild where it's how it's gotten to that point now. Because at the end of the day, you could technically get anyone to say whatever, but then people are going to be like, "Oh, is this real? Oh, is this that?
But hasn't that already happened with
trustworthy?"
Trump? Like, well, they've done it with loads of people, haven't they? And there was loads of stuff of.
They're pretty good too. Like if you don't pay attention, like they look legit.
And only if you look really, really closely. Like I don't know if you follow your football fans. We had the Euros in the summer.
Yeah.
And Gareth Southgate was our manager.
Oh, I've seen the video.
And him saying all these things.
He's talking about.
And I think if you weren't really paying attention, you'd sort of, and you were being really naive, you'd think, well, what the hell's going on? But actually, it's already there, isn't it?
Yeah, the only reason we knew it was fake was because it was a little bit outrageous for someone to be saying that on
Onto the press.
exactly, because there have been some with a lot of like British managers like in the Premier League even saying like their post-match interviews, and usually they give these BS responses like, we have to be a better team, we have to be more equipped and work from the back. Where there was like this one AI video for this one manager where they were saying, obviously we were shit, our defense was shit, and our wingers were shit, and they're like that's all we can say. Maybe I'll get the sack, maybe I won't. Who knows what's gonna happen?
The interview everybody wants to hear. Yeah. It's like a much more realistic.
You probably already know which manager I'm talking about as it is anyway.
Well, who did it? Was it Ten Hag?
Ten Hag, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like your Dutch accent.
There are certain things that we got to do. And
yeah, but you can imagine him saying that because he's quite blunt on the whole, isn't he?
He's so blunt, that guy. Yeah, I'm tired of listening to him though.
So are you a Man United fan?
He guessed it. He guessed it right there.
Yeah, difficult times.
Terrible time right now. I try not to talk about it too much.
Yeah, but the good news is, hopefully it'll get, I don't know who you could get, but it should eventually all start to get better, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah, we'll see. What about you? Who's your team?
Nottingham Forest. I don't know if you know much about them.
Ah, Forest. Yeah, you're a Forest fan. I have a buddy who's a Forest fan, yeah. They're doing okay.
Club. Things are slowly getting better, so it's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've had our bleak patch, and hopefully we can stay in the middle of the league this year.
Yeah, Dario, if you don't know this, in the Premier League, for a lot of smaller teams, it's a big achievement when they're aiming to be a mid team in the table, because there's just obviously the big, because just staying in the Premier League, once you're promoted, there's like big money in just being in the league, even if you're doing not so great in that league, because I think it's like 20 million pounds just for broadcasting rights of your team.
And obviously where you finished at the end of the season depends defines how much money you get, and the teams that go up usually are favourites to go down again, because they're especially if they haven't been in the Premier League, so they haven't got the money, and it's just really hard to stay up there because everyone's got so much cash. Who pays
them? Who's
the broadcasting companies? There's a lot of money in it.
Sky, they sell all the rights, because it's such a global product. The TV fees are incredible what they get for it. So
I'm actually curious. Being in the like working in Britain and it being such a huge part of media, do you find that a lot of production companies find their way like working in some way with the sports world, or is it like a monopoly of like a few big ones? Because that's what it's like here with like the really big teams. There's like a hand picked few different companies that handle a lot of the content, and not many other smaller production companies can kind of find their way into working with some of these bigger brands. Like, is it a little different there?
Well,
do you find?
I haven't got direct experience, but from what I understand, it's sort of the the kind of the broadcast element is all sort of like a closed shop.
Of course,
because you've got all the Sky's the TV, the satellite company. I imagine they arrange all the crews around the grounds. And then all the
aside
clubs,
from that,
and I think all the clubs now will have their own kind of in-house video team.
That's what I've noticed.
Who will produce all their content, and that's just churning it out week after, doing everything they can with the players and all the games and stuff, and they can all the sort of social stuff. And then I think the football clubs will also do stuff for their sponsors, for all the brands that sponsor them, and that's probably where all the external production companies come in and work with ad agencies. So I've got some of the freelancers we work with. I think occasionally I see they're doing stuff like with Arsenal or whatever, because it's a London team. So you'll see them, doing stuff for the day and doing, I guess, social content or stuff for the sponsors. But that's where the main interaction, I think, comes up with the sort of external production companies.
Yeah, I think that's the same
right there.
Yeah,
working with those clubs.
Yeah. Like, it's because these are like they're like here as well. Like each club is like its own business, and there's like an entirely massive structure to it, especially with the bigger ones. And the way you framed it, Nick, it makes me realize also that's kind of how it is also here, where a lot of the time, if you find yourself working with any of the big sports teams, it's usually through a sponsor in some way, shape, or form. It's never really directly with them. That's really the only way a lot of like smaller teams could of people can kind of find their way working with them. Because I know like a lot of people that jump into this industry are always saying, like, the standard thing people say, I want to do a Nike ad, I want to do an Adidas ad, I want to work with this NBA team or that. It's like, you can, but it's going to be indirect, you know, with some other channels to kind of get there.
And you're going to need a lot of luck.
An
amazing idea. Yeah. But yeah, that's how it works, I think. But it's amazing how, not sophisticated necessarily, but how good I think the club's content is getting.
Yeah.
I think they're getting much smarter, and some of the ideas and the sort of production values are brilliant, and the way they use graphics on their social stuff, I think it's really cool. I think it's really impressive how at the lengths that they're going to, and I think they realise how important it is for them to have like a good video presence. I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, I've been following some of the different creatives that are working directly with a lot of these clubs, just to kind of see how they're churning out the content, some of the behind the scenes, and it's really a huge production now what it's become. And it really does make sense for a lot of them to just have people internal that they can train, that know the brand and kind of work for it. Like that's kind of how it is with a lot of corporate companies that they're trying to do, you know, but I guess the difference is that a lot of people may not be as passionate about, you know, the stats numbers for XYZ Corp than
corporate banking. Yeah. Well, I think with the football teams, they've got like everything they do is interesting and exciting, isn't it? It's like nice colours, football, which is exciting, you know, loads of these cool young people, like everybody's got an interest in it somehow. You know, all the age groups, you know, you either want to be the player, you follow the club, you think they're cool, whatever. It's all the lifestyle brands. I mean, it's like just every angle of it is sort of has got potential, isn't it?
There's a saying in Toronto where like because we've noticed this, where some companies that or ad agencies know that when they're working with, say, a cool brand, you know, or maybe like a sports team, it gets reflected in the budget where it's so low that they call it the cool tax, you know?
So like a music video or something. It's like, but you should be doing it for free, or fashion, because it's fun. You're lucky to be here.
You get paid exposure.
Exactly. It's like, oh, like you'll be there courtside with the NBA or with the Toronto Raptors, you know, filming this. It's like, oh yeah, great. What's the budget? Nothing. $5.
I can't pay my rent with nothing.
Yeah, you're essentially paying to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's an expensive ticket. I'd rather just buy the ticket on its own.
It's like I'm trying to think what else they do that in. Music videos or fashion. They say it'll be good for your portfolio, isn't it?
There's no money in music videos. That's it's funny that once in a while, I don't know if it's the same for you, but get an email through the lead pipeline being like, hey, I got a music video that I need to shoot next week. The budget is $200 and I need you to provide this, provide that. You need this. And I'm like, did you not look at the website of what we do?
It's I mean, it's a bit like I sometimes ask, because you know your friends ask because you're in video, they think you do all sorts of things. They say, do you do weddings, you know, as a sort of joke and stuff, and you think there's just no way. I mean, some people I know would do that kind of stuff, but music videos, weddings and stuff, you just think it's not for me. I couldn't get involved in it.
Did you do weddings when you were getting into it?
I think I've done one or two, and they're not.
You got traumatized? You have a look in your eyes,
just
like that 1,000-yard stare.
That was PTSD hitting him.
He was like zoning out as he was talking.
1,000-yard stare.
Bad memories.
Yeah, back in Nam. Yeah, it's. I think it's. It's just. They're a bit like a corporate event, but you know, in a way they're worse because they're sort of generally less money and more stressful.
Did a bride yell at you? Is that what happened?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think what it did. I think I did my brother's
groom
wedding
yell
once,
at you.
It's just.
Did you say I gotta think of what I did? What did I do? Like that was the phrase.
I'll tell you what he did. He forgot to hit record on the bride and groom speech.
I've done that once. But
he hit record at the end. It started recording.
Yeah. I was to pretend it's something wrong with the camera, so that's why we didn't get it. I just think it's too stressful. I think either or we charge so much money that to make it worth like a fee so obscene that they wouldn't do it.
And they call him out on it. They're like, okay, we'll pay it. He's like,
shoot. Now it's really stressful because that price tag is also on. You know, it has to.
They're like, what are we going to get for all that?
Yeah, it's a downward spiral if you go in that route. It's like, let me overcharge so I don't get the gig, but then when you get it, you have to really make it good, you know?
Yeah, it can't just be and everything. But anyway, no. Why are we talking about this? Events, and things that people want you to do for free. Yeah, no, I remember doing. I think in the early days, I think in those 3 years you said after Bloomberg and before starting out, I remember doing some really low-paid jobs. Which I think at the time I didn't mind because you sort of, I guess you haven't.
It's normal.
Yeah, and you haven't got the overheads of a business, and you think, well, for a few £100, I actually don't mind that, and it's getting us along the thing. But I remember one thing I did do was one of our clients now is a big property conference in Cannes, and one of the things I remember doing was going out there and shooting stuff ourselves and doing these kind of on the at the event vox pops and stuff, all paid for by us. And that eventually got us the work. So, occasionally it does work doing things for free, but it's just you can't rely on it. I think that's...
But you got to also want to do...
What was paid for by you?
So we went out, I used to work at a property magazine before I went to Bloomberg, and there's this big property event called MIPIM in the south of France, which is a sort of world real estate sort of, I guess the whole world goes there and all sorts of companies go there, and it's like a big thing. And because I knew about it, I went out there with a cameraman and we did all the, we did some sort of vox pops on the streets and sort of made these daily rap videos to sort of promote it, even though it was all unofficial, just as a sort of way of boosting my portfolio and stuff. And I think also to say to our clients, we're going out there as a way of, staying in touch with them all. And then I sort of sent it to them, and over a kind of year or two, we eventually got in there, and now we do the work for them. So
nice.
So it's good. And actually, you think sometimes that sort of stuff does pay off, but you've just got to be in a position where you can afford to not get paid for it. And hang in there. But yeah, looking back on it, we sort of went 2 or 3 times, got the train all the way to south of France and did it. I guess it helped that it was somewhere nice to go. But yeah, we were paying to be out there, and I was paying a cameraman to follow me around and shoot stuff. So
nice. So now you got three with you, or
so it's me plus 2. Yeah, we're tiny. So we have a sort of junior producer level person who sort of works across all the projects, I suppose, and sort of support for me. And then we have an animator, motion graphics person who helps sort of create stuff, but also work on, I guess, mopping up projects after they've sort of officially closed and that kind of thing.
Is he also an editor, like your editor, or does he focus specifically on animation?
Sort of really basic editing, and we can do editing to the point of prepping rushes and making amends to stuff. But on the whole, we outsource our editing too.
So that means you must get a lot of animation work then if you have like an in-house animator.
Yeah, well, it really ebbs and flows, and if they're not on a project, then we get them to do, internal marketing stuff.
I see, okay.
But I think often for really big projects, we work with freelancers too who can sort of scale up to this stuff. But as you say, it's very hard to keep the flow kind of absolutely, perfect the whole time.
Even in video production, you got to have those 4 different roles all packed into one, It's not just the corporate world.
We were talking smack about that a second
ago. We're talking smack, and it's like, if he's not animating, we'll get him to do this. We'll get him to do that.
I was just thinking, Kyrill, how
this, right? You can do Photoshop, you can do...
Exactly. I do it all,
One of our PAs, Olivia, who's a trooper, like sometimes we have her help us with different things. Like she comes in as a PA, but she's helping us with teleprompter, gaffing.
Yeah, it's like, I know you didn't sign up for this, but you're now going to do this.
I need you.
Yeah. But I think I think up to a point it's okay. I think as long as people aren't doing it, you're like, I signed up for as an animator, and now
look, you also reward people like for being able to be that flexible. We're not saying that we wouldn't reward them, right? And that's probably what you do as well. I think it was an understanding where it's like, like this is your main role, but maybe occasionally we might need you to be able to do this and that. And if that's what people are pushing in the corporate world, I think more people would be understandable, like people would
but
think
they're
that,
not. So.
But they're not. They're just saying, no, you have to be the best at photography, and the best at animation, and the best at editing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how much do I get paid?
Minimum
50 big ones.
Yeah.
$50.
Yeah, an average salary for doing 4 jobs.
Average at best.
What's the freelancer world like over there?
I think it's I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it. There are lots of them. I think I was talking to someone this morning. I think it's a huge thing, and I think the whole industry sort of absolutely survives because of freelancers, and it's great in a way because there are so many of them, and there are a lot of really good ones, and everybody needs them. But equally, it means they sort of the network is very powerful, and there's a lot of work that they get. I think that in the past would have just gone straight to a bigger company.
Mm-hmm.
But I think freelancers now are so sophisticated, and the tools they can use mean that they're so flexible and adaptable to all sorts of things, all sorts of permutations of one person scales up to 3 or 4, and they can do the work of a bigger company. So I think it's a really sort of not complicated ecosystem, but very, very detailed, or whatever the word is. It's a huge network, I think, of freelancers doing all sorts of things, and I think they basically I sort of feel like they run the country in a way, which is good, in a way, because they're out there, and there are ones you like to work with and ones you sort of think, well, actually, they wouldn't be my first call. But I think they're everywhere, and I think it's we were at an event yesterday called In Motion. I don't know if you heard of it. It's like a huge, I think it's Dutch originally. They sort of mainly work in Holland, but they had a day yesterday in London, and it's just full of motion graphics and animators, and there were sort of thousands of them queuing up to get in, and you think there won't be that much work for all of them, but they're all there, and it's just, I think the standard is just so high that it's such a competitive market.
Yeah, I wonder how it would be to run. Like the rates will definitely be decent, like in terms of competitive. They're probably very competitive, and that's why I'm like wondering if there's, because you said there's 15,000 corporations, video production corporations registered in London. So
that could be one person registered as that, but that's
okay.
But that's like entities, I suppose, you could go to get a film made if you wanted to.
Yeah. So and then I guess on the freelance side, like a lot of them that might be doing a lot of work would be putting themselves up as an entity. I mean, when you think about it, a lot of our smaller video production companies, it's almost in a way the same situation as them, just under a company name as like the face of it, right? So it's just a different way of slicing the work. In a way.
And exactly. You call yourself, well, I guess I started out, it was just me, it was Boosh, and then you just get more people. Whereas a lot of the freelancers we work with have a company name, and they will, their invoices come from a company, but actually, it's just, Andy down the road or whatever who does that.
How did you find out there's 15,000?
Somebody told me. I think it was an agency guy giving a talk, and he was just saying, or maybe I read it on LinkedIn, the world's blur, but they were saying, I think he was maybe someone who deals with branding or business development, and trying to help you find your niche or something. He was just saying, this is how competitive your market is, and you've got over 15,000 companies all pitching for sort of the same work as you're trying to get.
In London or like in Britain?
I think that was the UK.
Oh, the UK. Oh, that's not too bad then for the whole of the UK.
No, but I mean, of those, probably 10,000 are in London or something.
Okay.
It's heavily skewed.
Wait, is it London or like the London greater area or greater GLA?
Greater London is sort of, it is the sort of, I don't know if you land London, but there's a sort of motorway around it called the M25.
Oh, okay.
Greater London sort of means everything within that, I think, which is like however far across. But London is a huge element. But also Brighton, I don't know if you Brighton's sort of on the coast.
Yeah.
About an hour south. And there's tends to be also a lot of animation and graphics people are down in Brighton. It seems to be like a hotbed of sort of spin-offs, or, people go down there because it's slightly cheaper. Well, it used to be, and it's just
a beach town.
They
want to live by the water and just animate and edit. I completely get that lifestyle.
But a lot of companies we work with down there, and also Bristol, I think. But Brighton is like a hotbed of creative sort of companies at the moment.
When I was doing research because we focused a lot on American cities this year, and there were a couple where I was like, wow, there's like no companies here. I think Albuquerque, because I was watching Better Call Saul, so I was looking to see who's around there. There's like 3 companies. We had one of them come on, Paul from Moji Cinema.
Yeah.
That's it. It was him, and there were 2 other ones. There's like no one else there.
Really? Yeah, some places are small.
Have you found, like, have there been differences between the different, I don't know what the range of cities or areas you've spoken to? Are you noticing that there's people from a certain area are all saying the same thing, and that's completely different to the scene in another place?
In terms of what?
Well, I don't know. I suppose anything, like you've noticed that production companies from London always have the same complaints, or like they work like this, and actually that it's interesting because in America it's completely different, and this wouldn't work, or I don't know, all the rates. We say our freelancer rates are $350 a day for a editor, graphics person, and upwards. But it's interesting to know, like, the fees are way more here, or I'm interested to know if you've, I guess, noticed any big differences.
We did a shoot in London, and I remember the rates were pretty good compared to here. Like, in terms of like it was good for us to hire because they were very reasonable. But you guys did one thing that was very interesting. I don't know if you do that, or because I got a couple of quotes from a couple of different companies, and I was surprised to see you guys charge per like equipment. Like each equipment is like
But yeah,
itemized.
some people do that.
Oh, like each piece of gear was
Yeah,
lined
Bro,
up.
they
It's
had
like-
the tripod. I put like 50 pounds. I'm like, for the tripod, like it was
Yeah.
weird to see that, right? But,
Yeah, but we
that's what I saw there. But in
Yeah,
the,
I
in the
don't like
US
that
and
look.
stuff, they don't.
I tend not to like it when people do that, but we have some freelancers who'll do that, like the DOP guys. And some people would say this is my fee, and providing it's not something really unusual, it's everything is for my fee. Where some people go like, oh, here's a battery, that's £10 or something.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Like
It's a
I
bit-
get it,
yeah.
but at the same time, I'm like, I guess because we're used to the Toronto market, and here,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people, it's kind of included as part of the
Yeah,
pack. Like it sometimes they'll add an equipment cost to it, like if you get a DP or whatever.
If it's a
But
specific
it's like
request as well, and there's like a lot of equipment that's needed. But if
Yeah,
it's
and
like
yeah,
a
if it's like a
smaller-
lot,
usually
but it's
have.
one total cost. Over there, it's like per item. Like you could look at, and it's like the basic stuff. And I was like, all right, like
kind of
don't
need a
charge you for the
tripod.
base plate at least.
yeah, and it's a bit
Like-
depressing, isn't it? It's sort of, I always think it sets just makes the whole thing a bit, a bit feels a bit mean at the beginning, and then you think, well, I didn't use
Yeah.
that, so can you take it off? And then like, well, no.
Yeah,
I
right?
don't want to-
Sure.
I'm gonna be looking at the DP the whole time. It's like, did you use that base plate? I don't think you did.
Yeah, it didn't come out of the bag. Take that
Put
off
the camera on a
invoice.
table. Boom. Saved us
Yeah.
saved us a tripod cost.
No slider, no
haven't-
slider.
No slider. Just put it on a book and move it around.
Yeah, I have a joke
Yeah.
with one guy, and I said, I didn't, he goes, Nick, you thought about the tripod, therefore I'm putting it on the, like just the fact you've even talked about it is worth, you can charge you for that. It's
Oh
a
my
bit,
God.
That's good.
Yeah,
But
it's a
there
bit-
are
I don't like
differences.
it.
There are differences. Like that's the one I can think off the top of my head between like us and London. But in
Yeah.
terms of like
Isn't
other
America
stuff, like there's
unionized?
other places where like they maybe it was harder for them to source freelancers. Like I'm just thinking because we were talking about freelancers earlier. But for me personally, the main difference I noticed was that a lot of the American companies have way stronger portfolios compared to like the Canadian companies. And I haven't done too much outreach in London, but so I'm not going to say too much about that. But compared to like the Canadian companies, I noticed the American portfolios were very strong
And
And more
Very
variety.
strong.
The main reason is
More
because there's a
variety.
lot of variety and
bigger stuff, way bigger
Yeah.
stuff.
Because if you look at it, there's a lot of different ecosystems in the US versus in Canada because a lot of like the main hubs are Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, and maybe Alberta here and there. So it's like 4 or 5 hubs in Canada, whereas in the US there's like multiple, like 50, dozens,
there's
of hubs.
That's a good point. The other point too is that more things are privatized in the U.S., which means that they're all private entities. It's easier than dealing with publics. Public.
what does that mean?
So
Like
like
companies.
again, like if everything's privatized, they're all individual entities, and they basically get more money because they're not sharing it all from one source, which would be the government, right? So here, if it's public, you're basically dealing with very limited budgets because it's all coming from federal budget, right, or
Oh, I see.
provincial
You mean
budget.
It's just the private sector is just much bigger in America.
Yeah. Like more things are privatized there compared to like here in Canada, right?
Yeah,
So,
and their market is huge, so they've all got more
it's
money.
huge.
Yeah.
And again, they got American dollar. Like every single Fortune 500
Yeah.
company is headquartered in the States, which means that they'll be creating more content and they'll have bigger budgets to create that content, right?
Yeah. I think so every now and again I hear about one of the production companies in the UK starting up in New York and stuff or whatever, or whatever. And I think it's just for them, it's just a huge market. And if you can get the sort of formula right and the mix right, I think it could be huge. As you say, because the market's so much bigger than the UK. If you can, I think once you've got it right in one area, you can just sort of roll it out across the country.
Yeah, and again, also if you're trying to make that next big move as a company, like your that next step is breaking into the U.S. market. Like you can't be like a massive company and not be headquartered in or have have a position in the States, right? Because that's the biggest market.
Yeah.
A lot of production companies in the US also, they kind of even work remote. Like some of them work remotely in one state, but then have clients all over the country and they fly out to all these different cities to conduct their work as well. There was like 1 or 2 guests that we had on the show that had that kind of workflow set up, and it works for them as well because it really is easy to just hop on a quick 1 hour flight. It's almost like commuting in a way, right? And I completely understand because like, what's the point of like living, for example, in LA for $3,000, $4,000 a month for a tiny shack when you can essentially live in, I don't know what's like a good example, but another state where you do most of like your day-to-day stuff. You fly in, you hire local crew maybe, and then that also works too.
Yeah.
Speaking of Kyrill, why do we spend $3,000 in a shack in Toronto?
I don't really know, honestly. We should take that our own advice at this point, you know, because it's the same everywhere. That's the problem in Canada. It's like you spend here's an example. Say you spend $3,000 or like $4,000 a month for a house here. Yeah, sure. Go to another smaller place. A lot of people thought of the same idea. So instead of 4,000, it's 3,500. It's not that big of a difference.
Yeah, and now you've got to commute to where you were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
It takes
so
like 3 hours to get to the city now.
Yeah, I think that happened here. And yeah, before it used to be everybody in London. Now you get you speak to all these producers or whatever, and they're all around the country. Like I'm in Glasgow or whatever, or I'm in Bristol. And they just fly down for shoots as and when they get them. And you think, well, why don't I do that? And then you think, well, I just would end up getting the train to London 3 times a week and spending a few £1,000s a year on a season ticket or something. So
that was our buddy.
I've been on those...
He lives in Scotland. And he was working in London like twice a week or something.
Yeah. So he was flying in every now and then. And I know those train commutes in London because I have family that live in or just outside London. They live around the Bromley area.
Okay,
and
so kind of nearly south, Kent nearly, yeah.
Exactly. So the commute from there is like probably like an hour and a half sometimes with the train. So, and you have to do that daily. It's not easy to do that constantly.
And the trains are really expensive in the UK as well. I don't know what they're like, but so.
Yeah, they were very expensive, I remember. And then once you get, I don't remember specifically, but it's like if it started to add up, it's going to be quite a bit. And once you get to like King's Cross Station, like that place is a massive hub with so many people. Like the rush hour time is not fun there.
Yeah, lots of people trying to do things in different places.
Is it worse than Union? Oof.
Well, there are probably like
That's
I don't know how big Union is, but there are probably like 5 or 6 unions in London or something like that. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like everyone's doing that. Everyone commutes in because like there's no. It's hard to live in London. It's so expensive that it just makes sense for most people to just live 2 hours, 1 hour outside of the city, and then just cheaper to come in through the train.
Yeah, I mean, I've often you think about do we need to be in London because as you say, so much of it's remote. And, client meetings can be remote, and I don't know. I mean, we're still here for now, and I think I like it because it's sort of nearer to the clients and when shoots happen. But I mean, you could easily set yourself up 3 hours away and just come in and spend the night in London and do a shoot and go back. But I think it's more about, for us, remote working. Once it's easy to sort of have the immediate team around you, but once it creates a huge amount of back and forth managing projects completely remotely. I think it's all right for a certain level, but I wouldn't want to be doing everything remotely. I think that would be exhausting.
In person is good. Like, I mean, Kyrill and I can't currently do in person too much because we're working from home. But I think if we had the opportunity, I think I would have pushed for an office. But it's an extra expense that we're trying to avoid for the time being.
I think it's a bit like once you've got it, it's okay, but it's hard to sort of create it when it wasn't there before.
Yeah, if you're already set up and you have a good system kind of going, then you're great. Because like startup costs for having some in-person kind of studio space or office space is the thing that usually is a little bit crazy. And then on top of that, having to be stuck on a contract for many months, especially when you've put so much money into these spaces, because a lot of like studios basically have to spend 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand to set up a whole massive studio space, but it's on a lease. So if the leaseholder decides to cut you out, boom, all those costs to set it up the way you wanted, gone out the window at that point, right? But I guess
great for us is the transit is a pain because we live far from each other now, like 30 kilometers. So it's like we'd have to meet in the middle somewhere. And I don't know how it is in London, but traffic in Toronto is like the worst in North America.
Oh right.
So
well, we wouldn't drive.
Like,
it would be the train, the tube or whatever. Yeah, you wouldn't drive. But yeah, on the whole, I mean, I find certainly that it's enough work to sort of communicate with freelancers and sort of brief them and review their work.
Yeah.
That's enough. But to do it with all the team as well, I mean, I say all the team, but, you know, the employees that we have, the staff that we've got, I think it's nice to be able to it's just one less email to send, isn't it? And have conversations about stuff immediately.
That's true, yeah.
It's just endless. When we were talking about how it's, you know, the briefing of freelancers and reviewing their stuff, it's a bit like prompting AI. You know, it's about the quality of it's the quality of your instruction is so important.
That's pretty good. I'm stealing that one.
Well, I realised that's how AI is going to work, isn't it? It's how well can you brief a freelancer? Is like how well can you prompt AI?
Yeah.
And it's just you know, it's tiring, and you've got to get it right. And there's, you know, when you start on an edit, you've got to get everything ready the day before, brief them so they know what to do, and then be on hand during the day as stuff's going on. So remote working comes with a huge amount of sort of unseen kind of add-on not admin, but, you know, sort of prep work.
Yeah.
Opportunity cost mainly as well, because you're spending more time also on that aspect rather than actually closing more deals or running the business.
Yeah,
you know?
completely. And you're having to make sure that they're doing the right thing. Are they briefed? Are they on the right track? Have they got everything they need? You know, getting all the assets together for freelancers is sort of skill in itself.
With some of the freelancers that we work with very often, I find sometimes just giving like a quick phone call just to kind of go over a bunch of things very quickly is a lot easier.
You get everything ready, and you have a kick-off phone call at the beginning to sort of talk through everything, explain what. But I mean, it's sort of, you know, the more contact you have them, the better. Absolutely, you've got to do all that. And obviously, you want people who know the brand, or hopefully, you know, you go back to certain guys who know the brand and know that client, so there's less sort of briefing you need to give them because they understand how to work.
It's the best. There's like one client that we've worked with on this animation project for the last 3 years, and it's always around the same time in January when it comes. And I just today, for example, was emailing the main animator that's worked on the project every year, and I said, hey, just letting you know, we should be getting some contact soon about this, so just get ready for round 4. You know, he's like, all right, perfect, let's do this. You know, and it's straightforward. You know, like we know the brief. It's usually the same deal. You know, it's like an annual conference, right? And
yeah. They like freelancers who you know, like who know the brand and they can sort of deliver it first time, and they're worth a huge amount.
Yeah, because otherwise then if you have to bring in another freelancer, if they're not available, then you have to kind of reteach what the whole deal is. You got to resend all the branding guidelines, be like, make sure you do it like this, like that.
And it's a huge, I mean, that's the cost of remote work, is that, isn't it? And so that, in a way it's great, but equally it just comes with a whole amount of, you know, issues.
Exactly. And sometimes sometimes we get requests from clients for certain edits and smaller projects because where we decide to take it internally, and I just do it internally rather than send it out to an editor, because I know it's going to be a lot faster if I just take care of it in this particular sense rather than spend the time to teach someone else. Then they send it back. It's like, okay, it's not great, you know, and then it's not exactly how it needs to be. So then I have to ask it again because but then on the other side, people say, oh, but you gotta, if you want to work with more and more editors, you gotta teach them, you gotta do this. And I do agree, but I think on more important things, right? If it's something that's super simple that can be done in like a couple hours, unless you're teaching someone who's brand new, you know, like in the industry, and you're trying to like groom them to be like a really good editor for your team for the long term, that's one thing. It's another thing where it's like, you're not going to give your most senior editor this one project that's going to take a little bit of time to go over it with them, have them work on something a lot bigger that's going to provide more value for you, rather than just give them that simple thing to do, right? You have to, it's always like you see what projects are coming through, and you have to kind of like Tetris it and figure out, okay, it'll be good if I give this one to them. I'll do these 2 little ones on the side just so that can kind of get it out of the way.
Yeah. And
then they can focus on this particular project or whatever, or vice versa. Sometimes,
I think that's a real skill, isn't it? It's knowing when to spend money on superior talent, and when to think this is good enough without wanting to give your client something that is below the standards that they should be getting. I think that's a big skill of that's the kind of producer role, I suppose, increasingly, is that, isn't it? Yeah,
like know what not to waste their time with, in terms of like, it's not wasting time necessarily, but like to occupy their time. Sorry, that's the right way to say it. You know, if you're occupying your best editor with a lot of little projects that are, you know, sure, they're paying the bills or whatever, but then like this really big one comes through, and then but they're busy with those, now what? Now what are you?
Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So it's always a balancing act. But
Yeah. I think
but
one of the things we do, because often, also because there's an element of, especially with bigger projects, you want the really talented people on it, but the client might not be able, be interested in paying.
there's that flip side, yeah.
Because like if it's a huge project, their editors spend a lot of time going through the rushes, getting all, prepping it all. And so, we'll do a thing of, we'll sort of get it all ready internally. So you'll sort of get to the point where these are the bits we want to, this is the stuff to focus on. These are the selects from the interviews that we want you to look at. Because the client wouldn't want to spend the extra 3 days of a sort of super talented guy going through all this stuff, which is something that we can do because we know the shoot really well. I think there's sort of the art of knowing how to deploy your resources versus someone else's, and sort of when to spend the time and money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the 1 hour mark, so I think this might be a good spot to end it. But before we end off, just tell us how you came up with the company's name.
Yeah,
is this the company? Is this the question everyone gets at the end of every?
Everyone.
Everyone. This how do you come in? So I went to a boarding school, and I have 3 older brothers, and we all went to the same school. And it was a nickname that we all inherited off each other. So when one leaves, you become Boosh.
Wait, what?
and I don't know why my eldest brother got the nickname. I don't know why that is, but it's
what's it mean?
Well,
in French, it means mouth.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it's spelled. Not because there's a TV series here called Mighty Boosh, which is like a weird, offbeat kind of comedy series, which is spelled OOSH, and this is Boosh spelled with as in mouth.
Like the French way, mouth media.
Yeah, like the French way. And it's funny when you have French clients because they're like, in England it's just nice, or the UK it's nice because it just sounds like a nice word to say, but in France they're like, why are you called mouth media? But
M&M,
Yeah, bad for them. But no, that's it. That's just a nickname. And actually, I think at the time when you're looking for, you're setting up a business, a lot of it comes down to the URL, what website is free.
Yeah.
And you go through all of them, and all the sort of standard ones like, reallyGreatVideo.com, all that kind of stuff has gone.
Really? Hold on a second.
Let me just write that
I'm going to
down.
check if that one is available right now.
And then I don't know about over there in the UK, we have a lot of animal descriptive names like,
Really?
Flaming Giraffe or Hungry Hippo, or not like that, but things
Classic.
like that, because you're combining 2 names, so immediately you've got more chance of finding it free.
Really great media is not available, but .ca is available.
Oh, nice. No, reallyGreatVideo.com was the.
What about .uk?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So that's it really. It's just a nickname, and the website was free, and I figured with a nickname, if people like saying it, then people are happy to say it. So that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boosh. I like it. Boosh Media.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
there we go.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. I still don't know how you guys came up with Boosh as a nickname, though.
No, I know.
Yeah, I know.
It hasn't really answered the question, has it? I
Not
wonder
100%.
We wonder if it's just maybe because he was really kind of, what we say mouthy or gobby, it's kind of
okay.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting, It's like someone would have to say like ferme la bouche,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe that's, we think our newsletter should change to being, amuse bouche, like all these, as like a food offering, and ferme la bouche can be at the end or something.
Like a sign off.
Yeah.
It's the final slide in all your pitch decks now, right? Ferme la bouche.
Yeah, and we
La
can do a
bouche
nice
is
little
ferme.
animation of the lips shutting or something, or the mouth shutting.
That should be the logo, just like.
Yeah,
Just
or we
lips.
do the Rolling Stones, they're sort of.
Oh yeah.
Just like that, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'll go and send an email to a branding guy and get it done.
We'll get your editor to create the animation for it.
Yeah.
There
For
you
the
go.
6 roles that he does.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Okay,
All right,
so
well, guys, if you want to see Nick's website, go to booshmedia.com. So BOUCHE media.com. And he's based out of London. So if you have a shoot out there, make sure to reach out to him. And thanks again for coming on. And I think your socials.
Thanks, Nick.
Before we end off, let me just do a shout out for your socials as well. It's the same thing, Boosh Media.
No, we
At
have
Boosh Media?
Instagram is the only one we don't do TikTok, but yeah, it's booshvideo.com. Sorry, just Boosh
Someone
Video,
took
yeah,
media,
obviously.
hey?
Yeah, well, I think what happened actually, originally we did have media, and then something happened to the Instagram account and we lost it. You know how, I don't know how sometimes you get locked out of it and then you can't get it back. Anyway, so it's
Really?
Boosh Video. Yeah.
Oh. That sucks.
Sad.
Well, Boosh Video is the Instagram handle, not
Yeah.
Boosh
Yeah.
Media. They're imposters.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think there is a media anymore. I don't know, or it's just dormant, or lots of frustrated fans like sending us messages trying to say, "Where's all the content?"
They're
like,
like,
I
why
can't-
didn't you update the website?
Why didn't you
Yeah,
reply to
well-
me on Instagram?
Yeah. Well, I'll have to find you. We'll find you guys on Instagram too, and hopefully if our new website, ever gets made for the new year or something, we can have a talk about new websites and showreels and stuff as well. That's a whole new podcast, probably.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds
We'll
good.
do that.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks
All
a lot,
right,
guys.
thanks,
It was great.
Thanks,
chatting
Nick.
to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creatives Grab Coffee. Please make sure to follow and engage with us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and your favorite podcast app.
Creatives Grab Coffee is created by Labs Productions, a video production company based in Toronto, Canada.
Creatives Grab Coffee is also sponsored by
My name is Miran. Welcome to Canada Film Equipment. We are a boutique rental house based in Toronto. We are here to help you guys out with all production sizes. Feel free to contact us to get a quote if you are a production house and you're looking for lighting, camera packages, or lighting and group band packages. You can see our contact information in the link below. We are more than happy to help you guys out. Make sure you follow and subscribe to creativesgrabcoffee.com. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt. Welcome to Audio Process. We are a boutique audio company doing location sound, sound design, post-sound, ADR, Foley. We service equipment. We do all your audio needs here in Toronto. We got you covered. Come on down, audioprocess.ca. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and all of the other internet things to creativesgrabcoffee.com. They'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting for you, and we're all going to have a real good time.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.